world, and welcome to an all-new OH.Report video podcast here on a brand new week in beautiful downtown Mansfield, Ohio. So that means more gas bagging from a group of semi-intelligent dudes just breaking down everything from the world of sports and beyond. My name is Brian. I'm going to be hosting the show today in my brand new fancy cap, which Hayden Gray tells me is called a Scully, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's the formal name. Like I told you, I do own one, but I don't know if I can pull it off as well as you. So
you don't think you'd be brave enough to throw it on the old head and just see if it works on the noggin?
Under the right circumstances.
Okay.
It would have to be the right type.
Maybe that day will come, and we'll see this time. What's up, Trav? You actually you told me last night to throw this on my head today.
Looks good.
It's working.
I mean, I saw you post a picture on your Twitter about it right before you bought it, and it's a good thing because I don't think anybody would let you not buy it after putting it on your head, but it looks good.
That's a good point.
It looks really good on you. What day is it? It seems like the whole last week was just a blur for me.
Yeah, we think it's Monday. We usually get together for the pod on Monday, so that would make sense that it's at the beginning of the week here.
I mean, 20 highlights last week. I mean, everybody's a little loopy from all that, but successful week.
It was. Speaking of loopy, how about G-Man and Storm? Kind of our version, I would say, of like chips and salsa, guys. A little bit spicy, a little bit salty.
It's our version of Chip and Dale.
Yeah, who would you say, who would be who, though? Who would be the chip and who would be the salsa in this situation?
I don't know. I think I'm salsa.
I'll be a chip.
Okay.
Chip dip.
Well, that's answered.
Deep. All right. Well, I guess let's get on with the topics for today, guys. Like Travis said, there was a lot of great action last week, covering 20 games here as a unit and a lot of memorable moments. So I wanted to hear from each of you, of course. We're at games by ourselves, so we don't get a chance to be in groups and see the same action as the other. I want to know what your top memory was from last week. G-Man, we'll start with you. What did you see that really impressed you, stood out about the week that was? Districts for softball, baseball, getting things started with sectionals.
Well, for me, it was going to be Mohawk softball. I covered them twice this week, and the first game was the district semifinal against Monroeville. In both of these games, they ended up falling behind, actually, the first couple innings. Against Monroeville, they dropped down 2-0, and then they were going to score 12 runs to beat them and through 5 innings. They run ruled in. But I want to highlight Tory Phillips. In the last 2 games, in the district semis and the district finals, she went 5 for 8 with 6 RBIs. She's pretty much been carrying the team offensively, really been getting them going. So for me, Mohawk really was the standout team for me. And then they went on to beat Plymouth 11-6 in that one, in the district final to beat them too. So for me, it's Mohawk.
All right, what about you, Storm Blunchley? What did you see that stood out?
I hate to do this to Crestview, but I think it was probably Colonel Crawford that upset them, mainly just because I think a lot of people counted Colonel Crawford out. They graduated a lot of really good baseball players last year, but, I mean, hey, they came in and they showed what they got. They know that the task ahead of them is not going to be as easy as things were last year, but I think just a lot of people really counted them out and thought that Crestview was going to come and beat them. But, hey, they showed up, and their pitching was amazing, and they were able to put up some pretty stellar runs. So I want to say Colonel Crawford really impressed me over this past week.
So more good Eagles versus maybe not so good of Cougs in that game?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think both teams were really good. I think Crestview's a pretty solid squad. But, like I said, more so it's just that I think that a lot of people were counting Colonel Crawford out just because of the season they had last year and the players they had last year. But, hey, those younger guys, they were stepping up.
Hall of Fame coach Dan Gorbett, once he gets into the tournament, we've seen he's taken some teams pretty far during his time at the helm of some different programs. Trav, what'd you see? What'd you like?
You know what? Out of the 7 games that I saw, there was a couple good ones, but I'd have to say the Ashland County District Championship game, Loudounville and Hillsdale. I mean, we saw both teams earlier in the season at the Wendy's Classic. Both teams knocked off Division I opponents, but Loudounville, they had the lead late. Going into the 6th inning, they were up 3-2, and then Hillsdale did what Hillsdale seems to do all year, and that's come back late. Key hits, put up a 4 spot, ended up winning that one 6-3. But I just got to give another shout out to Loudounville, just coming out of nowhere. They made it to the districts last year, but behind the pitching of Natalie Buzzard, they had some key hits to knock off Mogador, the 2 seed in the district semifinal. And they gave Hillsdale, who I think has a really good shot of making it back to Akron Firestone Stadium for a state Final Four. They gave them their best shot, but Hillsdale, coming up clutch once again. That was a fun game to do.
And sometimes, Hayden, 7 innings just isn't enough to determine an outcome, is it?
Yeah, no. My favorite game from the week was on the softball field, and it was Colonel Crawford and Edison. Now, I remember last week on the podcast, that was what I was looking most forward to. A few days before that, I watched Arlington in their game take on Mohawk, and that went 8 in a walk-off. So, yeah, this one started off really quick, and I was actually surprised. When I got up there, I expected to see the end of Upper Sandusky and Margaretta. They were already done and getting warmed up for this one. And honestly, it just was a quick pace of game. They were getting hits, but just a lot of pop-outs, a lot of strikeouts. I do want to give a shout-out to both pitchers, Kira Atman from Edison and then Lauren Fretchen from Colonel Crawford. This game would end up going 11 innings. Both girls pitched the entire game. They did not come out or make one pitching change, so I was very impressed. But, yeah, as you said, this one was still scoreless, and it would end up going to the bottom of the 11th. In the top of the 11th, Colonel Crawford was able to get runners in scoring position. So then Atlee Krayball was able to drive home pitcher Lauren Fretchen, get that run. She talked about, it wasn't the prettiest hit on earth. It actually turned out to be more of a bunt, but it was enough to get her into home. And then Edison just wasn't able to advance there in the bottom of the 11th. I think they went 1-2-3, just pop outs trying to make something happen. But it was one of the best games, probably the best softball game I've been to all year, even being scoreless. It was fun to watch these two teams duke it out, and obviously Colonel Crawford would then lose on Saturday in the finals to Margaretta, but this one was all around impressive.
Yeah, it's a long game, but not as long as the game
Yeah.
I took in for the district championship at Willard. They needed 12 guys, and what actually stood out to me the most, Clear Fork, they came in, they were just the number 6 seed, but they were the squad with all the momentum, and they were the hottest team in the district, and they looked like it. They had a big answer in the game where Lexington scored 4 runs. They took the lead. It looked like it was going to be a commanding lead into the 6th inning, but no. Lady Colts struck right back with 3 runs. Lexington never blinked. They just kept hanging in there, and despite giving up 16 hits, they still were able to eke it out, play enough defense. They turned 2 double plays in, I think, the 10th and 11th innings to stay alive, get up to bat, and eventually they got the game winner. So for me, the most impressive thing that I saw was Lady Lex give up a ton of hits. They brought in a sophomore pitcher because their stud, Jillian Bauman, she was getting hit left and right. But they bring in the sophomore. She was able to get out of some tough situations down the stretch, and that's why they were able to supply that game winner right there. Move on to the round of regionals for the first time in a decade. So Lexington, to me, defensively, was the team that stood out, was the most impressive.
Brian, that team is going to have to face a Keystone squad we saw last year knock off Madison in the regional championship. Do they have what it takes to possibly move on past a team like Keystone?
Well, from what I saw of Keystone when they were at that Wendy's Classic, it's just the same old squad. They got new girls in the lineup, but they just have a moxie about them, and they have a lot of girls on that team that have a belief, but so does Lexington. And I do like that it's a good mixture of veteran leaders plus some younger kids, and they just have a unit and a group that they believe in one another, and they feel like they need each other when they're out there on the field, as demonstrated by the defensive efforts they put together. So can they knock off a Keystone? Anything can happen on any given day, but I think they'd be a heavy underdog if that were to be a matchup for the regional title.
Well, then if they get by there, they would have to probably face a good Tri-Way squad that G-Man's been covering, and I covered, that has one of the best pitchers in the state. So tough path, but hey, Lexington, maybe they can do it.
Yeah, they'll be back in action on Wednesday. I'm going to be there actually tomorrow, right? They just moved the game.
Moved it up.
So we'll be seeing them tomorrow. All right, well, 3 weeks now into the high school softball tournament, and if you can believe it, 4 of the 7 K-MAC teams are still playing.
Well, would you look at that?
How about that? I know it brings a big smile to K-MAC Trav's face, and, a lot of smiles all the way around in K-MAC country, guys. So the fact that they got 4 of their 7 to a regional, does that actually mean that they have the best conference from top to bottom in all of our area, the 5 conferences that we cover? Hayden, is the K-MAC the best? Are they the cream of the crop?
It's tough. I had seen that really neat picture. I know it was just 3 of the 4, but with East Knox, Fredericktown, and then Danville. So that was super cool, and that got me thinking about this one a little bit. I want to put them up there towards the top for sure, but then some of the other ones that we have been talking about come from that OCC conference. And so I was trying to weigh the top half. I know it's top to bottom, but trying to weigh, just based off of some of the competition levels as well. And, that's something that they can't necessarily control unless it's non-conference scheduling. But most of the teams in the OCC are going to sway towards that D1, D2 level. So I think I ultimately came to a decision that the OCC edges them out a bit with the juggernauts like Lexington, Ashland, and even Madison at the top. But I do think that the KMAC is representing, and it's an eye-opener when you have over half your conference competing at this point still in the postseason. With there being 7 teams in the KMAC, still over half of them around is extremely impressive.
Yeah, well, it's amazing to get 4 teams to regionals, though. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned, I got some numbers
tough.
for you guys. You look at Danville; they were the #1 seed.
Yep.
And they were the 4th place team in the KMAC. So does that
Yeah.
mean that it's just a loaded conference? Maybe, but all they had to do was be a 17, an 8, and a 5 seed to get there.
Right.
East Knox faces a 6 and a 7 seed to win their district. So it definitely feels like the level of competition when they got in the tournament. There have been some open paths and doorways for them to kind of skate through. Whereas when you look at a Mount Vernon or an Ashland playing D1, having to travel 2 hours up to Northwest Ohio, a little bit tougher to do
Yeah.
that.
I don't know. We'll leave it to resident KMAC.
This is awesome. I've said this all year. This is an underrated conference, and G-Man's laughing over here because he apparently hates the KMAC now, even though that's where he got his start down in East Knox. But let me spit some facts at you. The countless number of teams on football season that made it past the first round, made it to the round of 8 in their region. You have East Knox basketball, regional champion, district champions. Danville girls basketball, district champions. You have the 4 softball district champions, and then Centerburg a runner-up because they had to face Cardington in a district championship game. You have 5 baseball teams in the districts for baseball with a chance of another 4 maybe winning a regional, and their past, they have a chance of doing that as well. You have a district champion track team. You have a district runner-up track team. This conference, all the way around, not only the major sports, but every sport is competitive in their district in Division 3 and 4, and one of the best D3 or 4 conferences in the state. I just said it, and that's what it is, because they have so much good talent, underrated talent.
Underrated talent. We're talking about softball, though, here today,
I know.
Trav. I don't think that I heard
you got
anything
me
about
going.
the
You
big
got me
yellow ball
going.
from you.
Softball.
So, G-Man, I think, is on the opposite side of the fence. He's not ready to buy in to this KMAC. Tell him why, G.
Not yet, but I don't think I hate KMAC.
I know, I'm messing with you.
I think I think they're hard to compare. I don't like comparing it because the OCC, they're going to play tougher competition. But the KMAC right now, to be able to have that many teams still playing right now, I mean, that's incredible. And after I heard that, I was at the Fredericktown game when they beat Johnstown, and I didn't think that Johnstown, Monroe, they were the higher seed, but I didn't think, or the lower seed, excuse me. I didn't think that Fredericktown was worse than them at all. Like, I didn't think it was an upset. I thought Johnstown, Monroe wasn't as good as Fredericktown. They just looked better. They looked better on the base pass. I just thought Fredericktown was a better team, and they won the game for that reason, 5-2. But I don't know if I'm ready to put them over the OCC with like Lex, Ashland, Madison. I think if Lexington was to go play Cardington, Lincoln, I think Lexington would win. I guess that's just
That'd be a good game, I
That's
think.
just how I would put it. But I don't think it's far off.
No, that's like I said. In Division 3 and 4, that's strictly
Right.
a D3 and 4 conference.
Right,
Now
true.
Highland is gone. You have OCC, which is pretty much D1
Right.
and 2.
That's why it's so hard to
If you go up
compare.
against maybe, you go Firelands Conference, KMAC versus Firelands Conference, KMAC versus Mid Buckeye Conference. I mean, and maybe half of the Northern 10. You put those teams together, I think KMAC stands above the rest. And another fact for you, I don't see it happening because East Knox plays the #1 team in the state, and Russia all the way on the border of Indiana, which I still hate these KMAC teams having to travel all the way to the other side of the state, and then Danville plays a state-ranked team too. We could see a Devil Dog state semifinal.
Which would be awesome. One more thing, though, that just got me thinking, playing in that central district, too, if you have the higher seed like these KMAC teams did, you get to play at home, I think, right?
And
In a lot of
baseball,
situations.
absolutely, but then softball has changed. Like, they played all 4 districts in D3 and 4 played down at Pickerington Central at that 4-diamond setup. But for baseball, I know at least district semifinal, and then if they come to an agreement, it's in the middle of the 2 schools. Like last year, you guys had to go to Lancaster for regionals and things like that. It might be played there. But baseball, they get that. Softball, though, it's different. They try and find a centralized spot. But for regionals, I just hate these teams have to go all the way to Cincinnati and all the way to the other side of Dayton, which it's tough for these teams.
Right, which is kind of my point for OCC teams like Ashland and Mount Vernon having to make that
Going
trip
all the way to
for
Toledo, yeah.
sectionals when they actually
Yeah.
start the tournament and not deep into their tournament trail. Storm, do you think that the KMAC, are they the queens of softball in our area, or do you like another conference ahead of them?
I'm not sure that they're the best of the best, just because, like everyone kind of has been saying, it's hard to compare. It's like comparing apples to oranges, with the OCC having such tough competition and being Division I and mainly in Division II. It's just really hard to compare those, because it's always the OCC are always going to have harder matchups, I guess you could say, than the KMAC, but that doesn't necessarily make it easier, I guess, for the KMAC. So
Fair point.
It's just a confusing kind of thing to compare conferences that are so drastically different, and I feel like these ones really are. And I don't want to take anything away from either of them. I think the KMAC and the OCC, they're both great at softball. They have really good softball programs, but it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to compare them, but it's hard to bet against the OCC as well.
Well, you mentioned apples and oranges. I'm just curious, where would you actually fall in that debate? What is the better fruit?
Oh, oranges.
By a long shot?
By a long shot.
Ooh,
Not even
I don't know.
I think
like
I'm
both.
new.
Orange
I
juice
like
over
it more
apple
than
oranges.
apples. I like the orange juice, but I'm
Yeah.
eating apples.
Can't put peanut butter on oranges. I mean, you
Could.
That is a
It
very good
depends what
point.
apple.
Now we're
Green
going
apple-
down
green
a,
sour
Now we're
apple.
going down a
Smith
rabbit
apple
hole.
is the best apple.
The green
Smith?
apple is the best because they're sour.
Yes. And the
We
apples
found the
have
next
to be
great
cold.
debate.
You can't eat an apple warm.
Oh,
they
warm
have to be
apple.
corn. They have to be cold.
I like cold, yeah.
Yeah,
you
apples
got to
are
go
good.
cold.
Crispy,
Yeah.
a little crunchy
Yeah.
on the outside.
Yeah.
Can I get back to the softball debate
Oh, yeah.
just for a second? No, although
Ooh,
he
sorry,
made a good,
after he
he
talked
made a
about
really good
football
point
and the
about
KMAC
you
and
put the peanut butter
all
on
that.
the apples. That's a really good snack to
Yeah,
have.
add
But
more calories.
comparing, we didn't say compare the KMAC to the MOAC. Highland moved from the KMAC to the MOAC. Baseball almost won a
True.
Are we
conference
talking about
championship and-
softball?
Yeah, softball. Well, softball as well, because the softball team finished maybe in the middle of the conference. Yeah, I see you laughing back there, Adam. I'm going to talk however I want. Softball finished in the middle of the KMAC. They finished towards the top of the MOAC. Now, teams, if you put those sides together, softball teams from the MOAC and the KMAC, who stands out?
Well, that wasn't really the debate here, I don't think. So, but it does sound like we've at least narrowed it down to two top conferences. We feel like the KMAC is
Yes.
the best for the little schools, and OCC the
Well,
cream
for
of
right
the crop
now,
for the big.
I think it varies year to year. With which class, like in high school, it's going to change from year to year with players and
Every year,
coaches. Like it's next year, the Firelands might be the best conference in softball. Like, it's kind of the same with every sport. I feel like in high school.
Ireland's never seems to get teams deep in the tournament here as of late.
Crestview
Yeah,
was
I
good
mean-
last year, but they didn't go that far. That's about it.
Anything else you got on this KMAC, Trav?
No, you guys are shutting me down, so let's move on.
Okay. Plenty more games coming up this week, including lots of KMAC action on the way that we're going to have. And, of course, we all go to different games. We're going to get to see different teams. I want to know, what are you most looking forward to this week? Storm, what is the matchup that you cannot wait to see?
My matchup that I'm super excited for is the Mohawk game. They played a couple of really stellar games out at Galleon that were really exciting to watch. First off versus South Central, and what was the second one where they were down? That was Plymouth.
They
Plymouth.
beat Plymouth. Came back to win that one. They
Yeah.
were down 5-1.
And
they
Plymouth
scored
is a
10
really
on
good,
the
yeah,
end.
Plymouth is a really good squad. So I'm excited to see if Mohawk can make some noise. I feel like that's another team that's a little bit underrated here in the tournament. Don't know a lot about Lincoln View, but I'm more excited about just seeing Mohawk play.
And they're a team that they have a reputation when they get in the tournament. They seem to get to regionals all the time, despite what their record is, what their regular season look like. They can be a middle-of-the-pack team in their conference, it seems, and always make runs. So sometimes it just feels like certain teams, you know, when they have that name across the chest, just magical things happen in the tournament. So it'd be cool to see if they can keep on marching on. What about you, G? Who are you going to be watching?
Well, I'm going to go see Triway versus Canfield. I don't really know anything about Canfield, to be completely honest with you. But Triway, a team they're taking on, I'm hearing they're no slouch. Obviously, they're in a regional semifinal for a reason. So Triway, they're going to have their hands full from here on out. But I think if they can make it past this team, they got a real shot at getting there. But I think for Triway, it's just taking it one game at a time. They can't look ahead because they're such a great team, and that's why I'm so excited to go watch them, just because I think they're the best team that I've covered all year. They're just they dominate. I'm ready for some competition. Every time I go and watch them, they blow a team out. I've seen 28-0, like 13-0. Like I'm ready for them be in a situation where maybe their backs are against the wall and kind of see how they respond. So I guess I'm excited for that Tri-Way versus Canfield matchup.
Is that your expectation? Is that you're going to get to see that in this Canfield game, even though the scouting report seems like it's a little bit limited right now? Or do you feel like they are going to rock and roll again?
I thought that they were going to have troubles a couple times, and they haven't. So I'm going to go with they'll be fine.
Yeah.
That district championship game they played, they scored 10 runs in the first 2 innings, and Carter Wachtel threw a one-hitter.
Yeah.
It was done. The game was done in about 45 minutes. It's
I don't think
a district championship game in Division II up in the Akron. There's a lot of good teams up in that Akron
mine
area.
took 3 hours and 45 minutes over at Willard. Yeah, I think the Titans got to be the best team that we're covering right now, right?
Until like the state semis, maybe. We'll
Could
see.
see that.
Maybe.
I think they
Which is
might go
incredible.
further. Yeah. I'm looking forward to possibly a Keystone Tri-Way rematch from last year's state championship game. That'll be one worth watching. That'll be a good game.
No, their revenge.
What about this week? Where are you going to be headed that Scott is thinking?
I'm going to be following, once again this week, the Lady Falcons of Hillsdale. They're going to take on Bristol, a team that they knocked off in the regional semifinals in 2019 when they went to the state final four before falling to Mechanicsburg. But this Hillsdale squad, you and I talked to Coach Moore before the Wendy's game. She said, we have a young team, we're just trying to find our way. And then after that Ashland game, they just took off. They won their conference. They came back in both of their not their district semifinal game. They were up 3-1 and then busted it open. But then against Loudounville, they showed that they can come back late. Against Ashland, they showed they can come back late against good opponents. They have the good pitching in Taylor Morgan. They have a bunch of hitting. Belle Dalton, she can crush the ball. They call her 2-2s for 2. And that's another thing. They always have the fun props. When we covered, I think, the first year of the OH.Report, they had the one-legged giraffe, Wendy the giraffe. Now they have 2-2s and everything. It's a team that likes to have fun. They stay loose, and when it comes to crunch time, they just seem to come through.
I think I've seen that from most of the teams that are successful and are still moving on. They'll have crazy rally caps. They'll have some type of a stuffed animal in their dugout, and they have fun when they're out there because that's what sports is all about. You can tell the teams that are a little bit more buttoned up don't have the same type of success, and especially in softball, the wilder the dugout, typically the more wins they get. Where are you heading this week, Hayden?
Well, I'll be making my first trip down to see some of the KMAC baseball action and a potential matchup based on who we're covering tonight. But will be that I would be really interested in is going to be the third installment, correct, of the Freddyburg rivalry. Third seeded Centerburg and second seeded Fredericktown both played tonight. So if we could get that third matchup for a district championship, it would be really entertaining. Obviously, Travis, I know you got to see both of those, I believe, earlier this year, and they haven't let down. So I think when you can get to the district final level and still have some of that bad blood carrying over from the regular season, it would make for a really good game. So fingers crossed tonight, both those teams win and we get that matchup.
Yeah, always rooting for conference showdowns in the tournament.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's probably going to pitch tonight for Fredericktown, but if Cade Carpenter is on the mound, Fredericktown has the upper hand, but I think they're going to pitch him tonight in the district semifinal and go with their number 2 against Centerburg, who they pitched at Centerburg in the game that the Trojans won. But with a pitcher like Cade Carpenter, this team can go far. Yeah. But then on the other side with Centerburg, if they get that, if they can get everything going like they did in that second game, it might be the Trojans going on to regionals.
Yeah, I'm going to go with baseball, too, for this week. And I got some questions for you, G-Man, about this Ontario team because they're going to be up against it. I know they got to go against the Sandusky Bay champs, the Tiffin Columbian squad. They've outscored their opponents by 100 runs on the season, so they can do it both. They can hit, and then they can play a little bit of defense. Warriors got a nice, rich tradition. I know they got a first-year head coach, but Mike Ellis, he's been around the program for a long time. He's been with them when they've had those deep tournament runs, and that's what Ontario does. They're one of those teams like I was just talking about. They just got that name on their chest. When they get in a tournament, special things seem to happen for them. Do you feel like this is a team with pitching and defense that can knock off a number 1 seed? Because I think if they can do that, probably going to see them in regionals.
Yeah, with their pitching, Ryan Chapman, the problem is when he's on, he's tough to hit against. And when they get going, they get that energy. They're a team that stays loose in the dugout. They're a lot of fun to be a part of. But as long as their hitting is there, they kind of struggle. I've been to a couple of their games this year. They went up, obviously, against Marshall Shepherd, and they struggled to hit the ball. But when they get going, I think they scored 2 runs in the 3rd inning and then 2 in the 4th, and then they blew it wide open and ended up scoring 6, I think, in the 5th inning. It's just if they get going. But if they don't, they're going to struggle because you just mentioned, Tiffin Columbia, they're no slouch, so they're going to put it to them if they're not getting in that quick fastball, jumping on those curveballs. But I like their chances with Chapman on the mound. I talked to him. He said he's going to be up there. Obviously, he's definitely their best pitcher, one of the best in the area. So I think as long as he's on the mound, they got a shot to win the game.
How big of a difference maker is Carter Weaver? Because in baseball, it's such an individualized sport that it's tough sometimes to really be a game changer. But he might be MOAC Player of the Year. He's one of those type of talents. I know he's a first teamer. What are your thoughts on just what he brings to the equation for Warriors?
Yeah, the last game I was at against Lamashani, I believe he had 4 or 5 RBIs. He had 2 triples, I believe, and was able to get that rally going for Ontario to get them back into that game and get the lead. Because the first couple innings, I thought maybe Lamashani's going to come here and upset him because it was a back-and-forth battle. Nobody was getting anything going, and then the bats started getting going. Both Weavers were standouts. They got a couple guys in that lineup that can really smoke the ball. That Raymond, I think he's the third hitter right there. He can smoke the ball, too, in the third spot. And then they got a couple – I just love the way they play on the base paths. They're so smart, and they know how to play the situations right. So I think with a team like that, they got that tournament pedigree across their chest. They got a shot really against any team as long as they can get the bats going.
Yeah, I've seen Tornadoes bowed out at this point in the tournament last year, and they've really taken a big step up. They've almost doubled their win total, I think, from a season ago. So I think there might be a little bit of pressure on Columbian coming into this game, the #1 seed. Great season they had. But Ontario, as mentioned in the tournament, they tend to do some awesome things. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. Going down Wednesday? I think that's a Wednesday game. Maybe Thursday.
Wednesday or Thursday. One or two. It just all meshes together now.
Well, while those athletes doing some awesome things, nothing to be ashamed of for all of us here at the OH.Report. We've already lived our glory days, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Some of them not as glorious as others. So Travis wanted to share story time and made us decide that we're all going to bring up some fun times from our high school careers where it didn't go so well for us. Travis, what's your most embarrassing high school sporting event moment? What happened to you?
Junior year of baseball, we're playing in our sectional semifinal game against one of our rivals. I get on the bus, get to the field, and realize I don't have my cleats. I just have these worn down, rinky pair of tennis shoes that I cannot use. Call my mom. She's on the way to the game. She has my cleats. I'm like, yeah, I get here. You got to get here. Game starts. She's not here. I'm up to bat 5th. Somehow we get a couple guys on, couple outs. I don't have any shoes. So I look down at the bench at one of our guys that really, he's a backup player, doesn't play a ton, but his shoe size is about 5 sizes bigger than mine. I'm like, Andrew, you got to give me your shoes. He's like, they won't fit. I was like, I don't care. I just need to get up the bat. So I walk up in these clown shoes, like trying to strut up there. Get up there. First pitch I see, base hit the right field. I have to run. I'm like flopping around. I almost trip a couple times, make it to first base, run scores. Right as my mom pulls up, after the half inning I go in, like, where have you been? She's like, oh, I was just taking my time to get here. I'm like, well, thanks. I had to run in clown shoes, but that was my
At least
kind
you
of
got
horror
a happy
story.
ending.
Yeah, I got the base hit, and
Yeah.
I had to look like a complete moron running down to first base trying to stay in my shoes, but it worked out.
It doesn't always have to look pretty as long as you get the job done. Hayden, does your story have as great of an ending as Travis's?
It's a semi-good ending, I guess. It does revolve around the idea that you don't always have to look pretty to get it done. So I probably didn't look pretty or get it done, essentially myself. So I believe it was sophomore year for football, and we had a JV game, I believe, at Tiffin Columbian. And I just remember it was we were on punt block. We were waiting to return the punt. Someone had got a hand on it, and it was my time to shine. Sophomore year, I was still pretty hefty with the LBs, but it was my time to grab that pigskin and head for the end zone. So we were only about 20 yards out, thank God. And I pick up the ball, and I'm headed, and by the grace of God, no one catches me. And then I start to go down on the stamina. So I've got to extend out for that goal line. I've got to make one final leap. And as soon as the ball got across, it bounces out of my hand.
Oh.
And so there's just a free ball in the end zone there. And one of my teammates, so we still scored, but my teammate got to pick it up and record that stat. So yeah.
At least a happy ending for the team, though.
Yeah.
Just not so good for your
for my
overall.
stats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, G-Man. What didn't go so well for you one day?
Yeah, mine is not a happy ending at all. I was a junior, and we got done with pregame for a Friday night game. We were going back to the locker room before Coach came in, and I know you guys know how Crestview looks. When you drive around, and then here's the field up here, and then they got the stairs, and then there's the concrete gap before like the locker room. I don't know if you've ever run on concrete with cleats.
It's not fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's not
like
a good
slip and
result.
slide.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, we all, like, run down that hill all the time, and, like, the band is sitting there waiting, like, to cross, to go up to the field. And as soon as I hit the concrete, I just slipped, and my legs were, like, behind my back, and I was, like, pinned underneath. It was
And you're in pads, too,
Yeah,
so
it was an awful time. Full pads, too.
hard to get up.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. It was one of the worst
Very
days of
many
my life.
witnesses.
Oh yeah, full band.
No.
We did this thing where like it was like grandparents' night where you'd walk out with your
Oh, no.
grandparents and like everybody's sitting there watching.
Oh, man.
And I was just like,
Were your grandparents, like, almost
they
deciding,
weren't there
do
yet.
I want to
so
walk out?
They didn't get to watch it. I never told them about that to this day, so I keep that quiet.
It's too late now. Cat's out of the bag. Oh, but look at that beautiful face.
Oh.
Yeah, big.
Look at the baby face without the facial hair,
know,
too.
man.
Look at
Did you,
that.
could you grow facial hair in high school?
Just my neck. I figured anything.
Yeah,
Remember?
same,
I couldn't
same.
grow
Just
on
neck
my
beards,
face.
yeah.
It was just the goatee. It's all I could grow.
Ew. It's just the neared.
The near.
It's just this. That's what I grow in high school, but just a little bit more now. Still not that better.
It's looking nice. Looking nice. Storm, when were you not looking so nice on a playing surface in high school?
Well, I never really played sports in high school. I gave that up after my freshman year. But I do have a Pony League baseball story, and I feel like there's a lot of things that people don't know about me. A lot of people think I have a pretty unique name. So I'm actually named after George Earl Storm Davis. Played in the MLB. He was a pitcher. Played for the Tigers. So you think that, being named after a baseball player, I'd be pretty good on the diamond. I was not. I might actually be the worst baseball player to ever live.
Yeah.
One
of the worst players I've ever seen.
So
in my
I
life.
played for Union, and that's the Kissels. They coached that team, Dave did, and he was like, hey, you want to try catcher? And I was like, sounds really fun, yeah. I was a right fielder, so, it was a little bit of a different type of scenario. And so I was really good in practice, and I don't know what it was about game time, but, man, I dropped. It was anywhere between 5 to 8 third strikes in a row and gave up probably close to 5 runs. And I distinctly remember a guy on first and a guy on third, and they did a mound visit, but it was a catcher's visit. And Dave Kissel came up to me and was like, the guy is going to go from first to second. Do not throw. Do not throw to second base.
What does he do?
So the pitch comes in. Guy takes off for first. I rifle it to second, and the guy from third scores. Don't remember how we got out of the inning. I have no idea how, but I remember that after that, I never wanted to play baseball ever again in my
I
life.
can see the resemblance.
Oh, wow. There he is right there.
Yep, Storm Davis, first and middle name.
I have kind of a similar story when I was playing baseball. I think 5th grade when they
This
gave me
is
the
good.
opportunity to play pitcher, and then it was very similar. I couldn't get a strike. People just weren't swinging, and people just kept getting on base. And I don't remember how we got out of the inning, but I do remember that night I decided, this game's just
Not for me anymore,
I'm
man.
not going to do it. All right, guys, I'm going to take you back to the year 2000 with my story. G-Man and Storm weren't even in diapers yet. I don't even think they were created at this point. Me, I'm just a scrawny freshman still trying to figure out my developing body. I had a growth spurt between 8th grade and 9th grade, and I played center in 8th grade. That's how much taller I was than my peers, and as a freshman, they decided, you know what, kind of leveled out, let's put you at point guard. So my ball skills, my ball handling, I was still trying to develop. And at my school on Saturdays in league games, we would play freshman, boy, girl, JV, boy, girl, so on and so forth. So it's the second game of the day. Basically, the only people that are in the gym are the other basketball teams, but these are my peers, man. I want to impress them, and in particular, the seniors were sitting up front, the basketball players. And I'm dribbling. I'm coming across half court. I just want to look cool in front of them. I'm calling out the play. I got my hand motions, and then all of a sudden, here comes the center court line. No defender in sight. Boom! I hit the ground. I think I cracked open my chin. I had a little bit of blood coming out. Guy scoops it up, takes it in for an uncontested layup. lots of jokes. I still can't live down that moment. When I go back to my hometown and I see those same guys, hey, Skoronsky, how's that center court monster treating you? Still, like, I still get the business for that one. I wish I had that on video somewhere in an archive that I could bring it up for you guys, because it was a nasty spill with no defense. All I was trying to do was dribble across half court. I was not successful that day. That was rough.
And sad music.
Well, that was an embarrassing moment for me. But yesterday, on a little bit of a bigger scale, I would say, at the PGA Championship, Mito Pereira had his own taste of embarrassment, took a double bogey on the 72nd hole. All he had to do was bogey that baby, and he would have at least been in a playoff. A par wins him the entire tournament. He couldn't get it done. And there have been many moments like this in the sports landscape over the last however many years we've been playing. So what do you guys think is the worst choke job in the history of sports? Any sport, it can be team, it can be individual, where at the very end of the game, ball in hand, the win is right on their doorstep, and they just can't get it done. G-Man, we'll let you start this baby off.
This one is very near and dear to me. I love this one.
Yep.
I'm going with the Minneapolis Miracle. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Oh,
I mean, I know you got to remember this one. As the Vikings were down by, I think, 2 points. It was 21-23, and I think we had 20 seconds left with Case Keenum, and the play was called 7-Heaven, throw it up to Stephon Diggs on a little corner route, and Marcus Williams absolutely just misses Stephon Diggs in the open field. All he had to do was get him to the ground. I mean, even get him out of bounds at that point. We were still out of field goal range. Just get him to the ground somehow, some way, and he absolutely missed. And not only did he miss, he hit the other guy that was in the vicinity to make any kind of tackle. Vikes would go on to win, and what a huge moment that was, and that was awesome to be a fan of and to be a part of. I've never reacted to a game like that ever before, so I'm going with Marcus Williams, safety for the Saints.
I remember watching that in real time, too, and it was one of those where you just put your hands on your head. You can't believe it. You can't believe that a guy just blew it like that. I think honorable mention for the Vikings, too, when Gary Anderson had that perfect year of kicking in 1998 against the Falcons. All he had to do was just make one more field goal, and they're going off to the Super Bowl.
Another honorable mention, Brett Favre in the Bounty Gate against the Saints in 2009, threw across his body. We needed like 20 yards for a field goal. Game would have been over, but would have been in a Super Bowl, and we would have beat the Colts that year. But no, we're still Super Bowl winless.
Who's the biggest choke artist of all time, Storm, in the
Chris
clutch?
Well, I think it was Chris Paul, but I wanted to go something a little more near and dear to my heart. And mine was actually before I was even born. The 1987 NBA Eastern Conference Finals. Isaiah Thomas. We were up big game 5, series tied 2-2 with the Boston Celtics, Detroit Pistons, and all we have to do is inbound the basketball. Game's pretty much over. It's a free throw shooting contest.
That's right.
Isaiah Thomas isn't aware that we have a timeout left, decides to make an errant pass to Larry Bird, who will eventually lay it in and win the game for the Celtics, and we would end up going on to lose that series in 7 games. So that one hurts. That hurts me, even though I wasn't even alive for it, but just to know that had happened, seeing the replays about it, wow.
It's such an amazing play, though. I almost don't even feel like it was that big of a choke by Isaiah, just because of what transpired, that Larry Bird was even able to make that bucket, man. Like that's a crazy play, but it doesn't make it feel any better.
We got a timeout. We could have just called timeout.
Could have done it.
Instead, Isaiah Thomas tried to be the hero. Still think he's a top 5 point guard, though.
Another debate for another day, and I see LeBron as the GOAT over here on G-Man's whiteboard. We'll get that discussion going. All right, Hayden, who was an even bigger choke artist than these two guys brought up?
I guess this one's more of a team effort, and it is still a single game. So if we're willing to agree upon a second half of an NFL game still being considered mid to late game choke job, one that's still an infinite meme to this day is the Falcons and Patriots. I mean, anytime you're up 28-9 after 3 quarters, things seem to be looking pretty good. Now, I will say you're up against arguably one of the greatest of all time in quarterbacks in Tom Brady. So I think, someone may try and debate it's not a choke job just because of who they were facing, but I mean, with 1 quarter left and you're up by 26, most often, probability-wise, you're going to win. So I think that's a pretty massive choke job. And I guess if we're connecting it to our own teams, I guess a fond memory of ours, Travis, could be Ben Roethlisberger to Santonio Holmes to win a certain Super Bowl against the Arizona Cardinals.
Or a certain wild card game back in the early 2000s where the Browns had a big lead late and the Steelers come back to win that.
True.
That'd be another one. But
I don't know why we're talking
Tom
about
Brady has to be the luckiest quarterback in Super Bowl history, too. How many times did he?
Yeah, true.
Let's see. Seattle at the 1-yard line, instead of running the ball, he threw a slant.
That's a big choke,
The
too,
Falcons run the ball, kick a field goal. You're going to win it. No, you keep trying to throw the ball. Patriots turn it over. Luck comes into it as well.
True.
Brady also is the GOAT, but he's also one of the luckiest quarterbacks in Super Bowl history. Now, somebody unlucky on my side is one Warren Moon and the Houston Oilers back in 1993 against the Buffalo Bills. Jim Kelly out of the game in the wild card game, did not start. Reich started for them. It's a 32-point game after a pick six about 2 minutes into the third quarter, and then that Buffalo Bills playoff magic that's not the Super Bowl. But before that, in the playoffs, that magic just comes alive up in Buffalo. They come back. They ended up scoring, 35 points straight to knock off the Oilers on their way to another Super Bowl loss. But, just the way that the Oilers just collapsed in that game after having it in their hands. And I feel bad for Warren Moon, but that was just a major, major playoff collapse up there with the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
And what a great comebacks, though, obviously, ever in any
true.
sport. And what Frank Reich was able to do after being so mediocre for most of the game, then all of a sudden, guys started catching balls. Crazy things went down. But I don't think as crazy as this one, guys. I think I actually have the correct answer in this one, because in team sports, you can kind of look at the other guy, or you can look at a lot of different things that could go wrong and unravel for a lot of different ways. But in the game of golf, it's just you, and you are solely responsible, unless you want to put some on the shoulder of the caddies. But at the 1999 Open Championship, John Vanderbilt standing on the tee, 72nd hole. All he has to do is get a double bogey, and he's going to be the first French guy to win that tournament in over 100 years. Everyone has basically put it in the bag, man. The Vegas odds, they just quit taking bets. He can't possibly lose. And what does this guy do? He takes out a driver when he probably could have just hit pitching wedge a few times onto the green and then tap it in for a bogey or a double bogey. He barely evades the water, and you're like, wow, that was a bonehead thing, but he's okay. No, he then proceeds to take out a 2-iron, and he hits it almost into the grandstands. It actually bounces out of the stands, back behind the green. Oh, it's okay. He'll just pitch it on. He'll get a couple of putts, and he'll win the tournament. No, he chunks it into the water, and then I think in the most crazy scenario that I've ever seen in professional sports, the guy takes off his shoes and socks. He gets in the water, and he's going to attempt to swing his golf club in the pond and try to hit it up on the green. He eventually decided, you know what, I don't think this is a very good idea. Yeah, great advice from the caddy there. I can't even believe that he got into the water. He eventually takes the drop. He hits another awful shot into a bunker, and then somehow, some way, miraculously hits it out of the bunker to within 6 feet and has to drain a crazy putt just to get into the playoff. He did not win that playoff, because that choke was just too much for him to overcome. That, I think, gentlemen, is the worst choke job at the end of any sporting event ever. And I remember watching that live with my dad, and we both, just with each passing moment, no words were said. We were just looking at each other like, this is unbelievable.
Tin Cup moment.
Okay. Let's kind of wrap things up here today. Let's talk about the NBA. Let's have a little bit of fun here, shall we? We got a good back-and-forth series going in the Eastern Conference. West, maybe not so much. Kind of looks like that one might be with the brooms coming out here soon. So I guess that's the question, guys. Storm, we'll let you go first on this one. Do you see Luka being able to produce some magic without getting broomed out of the playoffs? And who's actually going to win between the Heat and Celtics? Because I just don't have a very good read on that game.
Start off with the Luka stuff. No, last night was their best chance, and they blew it. They were up quite a bit at near halftime, and then The Warriors, they're just too deep. They have too many really, really good offensive players, and they've had some kind of no-name guys come out of nowhere. Not really no-name, but some of their more role player guys come out and really perform big for them. And as far as Miami and Boston, that I really can't get a read on that series. It's getting kind of scary though for Miami with how many guys are hurt right now. Jimmy Butler's day-to-day, PJ Tucker's day-to-day, Kyle Lowry's day-to-day, and Tyler Hero's out. So injuries on both sides of things. And I really think it's going to just come down to will Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown step up and put the backpack on and keep willing this Celtics team to victory, because it's going to take it's not just going to take good defense to beat this Miami team. You're going to have to beat Miami's defense, and that's something that the Celtics have struggled with thus far in this series.
Sounds like whoever can just get 5 healthy bodies on the floor might just win that series. Does Luka get a game?
I hope.
I'm cheering for it.
I am too. I think he can, but I think last night was a good chance for them to be able to do it, and they weren't able to. I think with Golden State, now that they know that the Eastern Conference Finals might be more than 4 games, obviously it is going to be maybe more than 5, but they're going to want to pounce on it, get it done, get the sweep, and then get some rest. So I think they're going to bring everything they got here in Game 4 to be able to sweep Luka and the Mavs. But Luka's, man, he didn't play very good last night, did he? And he still had like 30 points.
Yes, didn't play very well,
Yeah.
but really good for a lot of other guys.
So I hope they get one done, and I pray that they do. But it's not looking good now for Boston and Miami. It's just a matter of health. Who's going to be on the floor and who isn't? And I think Boston, when healthy, I think they got the better team overall. I think they do it better on both sides of the ball, but that's if they're healthy. If they ain't got Marcus Smart and they ain't got Jason Tatum got banged up, if they ain't got those guys in, I don't know if they can beat Miami. Now, Miami's playing the same kind of game that they are with the injuries themselves, so I just like Boston's scores more than I like Miami's scores. I love Jimmy Butler, but I think Jason Tatum's a better scorer than he is. But I don't know. Miami's shown that Bam stepped up last game with 31. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that, though, on a consistent basis. I don't see Bam Adebayo scoring 30 points the rest of the series. I don't know about that.
As soon as I start believing in the Celtics, they turn it over 25 times, and they can't win and beat a Jimmy Butler-less Heat. So,
Yeah.
you know what? My thoughts and opinions on this series, I thought it was going to be Boston's for the taking. I do kind of feel like after we saw them without Jimmy Butler, I think the Heat's kind of a tougher team. I think from top to bottom, they just have guys that are a little bit more mentally able to withstand some beatings, and just overall physically too. When you look at Tucker, Butler, Bam, you know, they got the thick cut Lowry packing around some extra pounds, Oladipo off the bench. I think I'm starting to lean more towards the Heat also because I know that it just makes Adam smile anytime that we gang up against his team. So I think I would predict Miami to get out of this thing. We've been overlooking them as they're the number 1 seed. I don't think they've got any respect in any of these series. I think people were picking them back in the early rounds to go down. So I'm going to pick the Heat, and poor Luka, man. Just sometimes I think that Superman, that he can't always rescue everybody. Sometimes the train's got to go over the side of the edge, or, you know, a girl, a damsel in distress. They just can't all be rescued all the time. And I feel like that's going to be the case for the Mavs. Brooms are coming out in Game 4.
Go for it, Hayden.
Right?
They sure
Am I
are.
right?
They sure are. I'm going to turn the hearing aids off after I say this, too, because I'm sure I'll get
Here we
all
go.
the flack from the
Don't
Goon
say
Squad.
anything about
Well,
it.
at least
Yeah,
Ja was able to get a game against the Warriors, and that's not saying he's better than Luka, but I'm just going to leave that float there for you. At least he was able to take a game home.
I want to add something so bad.
I
let him
can't
finish.
hear
Let him
G-Man
finish.
speaking because the
Let him
hearing aids are
finish.
off. No, the Mavericks are going to get swept, excuse me. I heard you, Adam. But, no, Luka's been the only thing that's even – if a series could be ended in one game, it would have already happened if Luka didn't exist. So I give him his credit, but they're going to get swept. And on the East, and in terms of that, I'm kind of with the rest of y'all. I mean, the best guess I can give is that it's going to go 7. I think it's going to take 7 games to get a winner out of the East, just with the injuries and going back and forth. I think it's going to take 7, and we'll make Adam smile a little more even. I'll just go on to say whoever comes out of the East is losing, and you can go ahead and book the Warriors as the champs this year.
Oh, I know G-Man likes the sound of that. He's got some money right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't enjoy saying it, but I mean, it's just if they sweep, you guys brought up a good point with the rest. that's a huge perk for them. So
Luca better just break out the golf clubs now. They're done. It's over. It's over. I don't even think they're going to get a win. As for Boston, I think they can still win the series. I'm rooting for Adam as I have been after that first round defeat, knocking off.
The Cavs are going to sweep the Celtics.
Well, yeah, I said that, but once they got past that first round, once the Celtics didn't, Cavs didn't even make it to the past the play-in.
They could have just got in.
Well, think about it this way. Remember when these teams at the top of the East were trying to fight to stay away from Brooklyn? They were losing games, and teams were just think if those teams played and that top four actually was kind of mixed around and changed there, how this playoffs would have, played out. The Heat might not even be here, but they just got it set up perfectly because the other teams are trying to lose to avoid Brooklyn. Brooklyn gets knocked off by the Celtics, and then all of a sudden, hey, the Heat are sitting pretty. If that last week of the regular season plays out to where everybody actually tries to play for positioning, this is a completely different NBA playoffs.
Anything that you want to add, G?
No, I don't even want to start. No, I just want to say that Ja, when he didn't play,
They were
was
competitive.
when they blew the Warriors out. That's it. Ja wasn't even on the floor.
But he still did have his one where he exploded for 47 and got a win.
Hey, you remember when we called that Cavs stuff at the halfway through the season? Though they were
Travis
at the
said
top.
the Cavs were going to sweep the Celtics.
That is
That's
egregious.
Hey, that one didn't
That's
turn on
ratio.
me.
That is a
L
no.
plus ratio.
Hey, it worked out
Go
for Adam's
it,
team,
Brian.
though, didn't it?
Good. Wow.
All right. Look, I got a little would you rather scenario for you guys here today because this morning, a little bit of maintenance going down on my block. I'm a guy that I like to get in a little shower before I get into my work day and come in, smelling appropriate, have the hair all done, and didn't get that opportunity today. No water at my house, and with no running water, I was looking around. And I was like, what would I give up to be able to take a shower or just be able to wash my dishes? And this is what I came up with for you guys. Would you rather no running water at your house for a whole week or no internet for that week? Do you want the technology or do you want the cleanliness? There's a lot of great things that come with water, of course. The showers, you got the laundry, the dishes, if you're thirsty, the toilets. Yeah, just life in general. But would you trade that in for the internet, G?
No. I'm going no running water. I'd rather have internet because I can get water from other places. Pools, creeks, rivers, bottled water. There's plenty of other places I can get my water. I'm not really worried about that. If it's only for a week, that's the big key here. If it's only for a week, I can't go without my phone for like 3 hours. Unless I'm on like vacation. You said we're staying at home here, so I'm going. I'd rather have the internet. I'll deal without the water for a week, but that shower is going to be nice.
How long
that 8th day?
How long would it have to be? A month?
I
2 months?
couldn't shower for it had the week.
So
I'd have to
anything
shower.
beyond
Cut
a
off.
week, you
I
might
think I'd have
start
to shower.
shifting the other way.
I don't know. I could just pour water on my head. Like,
I know, but after a while, that's got to get old. Like it's just.
There's only so many creeks you can jump in modern day society and feel good about it at the end of the day, Storm.
yeah, that's fair. Mine was the internet too. I would much rather have the internet than running water. It's like my livelihood. I'm on the internet right now.
I think I'm on the internet, maybe. Other than when I'm working,
like
24,
15 to
yeah.
18 hours a day. I'm on the internet, so I don't know. I don't know if I could give that up for a week.
We wouldn't be able to work.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
another thing.
my livelihood. Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to have a
Editing and
paycheck.
things like that, getting it online, like.
Strangely, right after I brought up this topic to you guys, the internet went out here at OH.Report Studios for about 2 minutes. And
we-
our
we
lives
were
Our
lost.
lives crumble.
Yeah, I saw like
Production
Travis was just
just
like
went-
wandering into walls and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's
Adam
like,
was just twitching.
Everybody's
just
glitching
sitting-
out,
Ugh.
yeah.
it was rough times. But would you rather have that or water?
I'd rather have no running water because, like G said, I can buy bottled water. I can go to Planet Fitness and shower.
no,
you know,
no
like,
count.
I'll go to your
no,
house.
no.
I'll go to your house and
yeah,
do
what are all these
laundry.
workarounds, man.
Hey, there was no stipulations on here. I'd
Boo,
be like G.
cheater.
I'll be like MJ going in the creek and taking a little bath like he did a couple days ago when you guys were out. There's ways around it.
Yeah, and I heard that the girls at school, they weren't even playing with them at recess today.
They weren't. Yeah. Well.
Some of the insider info that I heard. All right, hey, you want some running water at the crib, or you just want to be able to hop on and Netflix and chill whenever you
There
want?
we go.
Well, I was going to try and be
Big John
fun
Ryan.
because I saw everyone say, give me the internet. So before all the stipulations came to play, I had said I'll be the one that try and says, let's see, can I rough it a week without internet? But no, I guess that's true. I mean, if we're going to throw these kind of things in, like you can go get water someone else, well, I'll take the running water so I don't have to do that. And if I need to get on the internet, I'll just go somewhere with Wi-Fi.
Public Wi-Fi.
But if that's
I'll
true.
just
If we
go
have to stay
somewhere
at
running
home,
water.
I'm not thinking, so you
playing
got to
Apex
go,
at McDonald's
you
Wi-Fi.
got to drop a deuce. The number 2's on the way.
Ooh,
Make
You just
buckets.
leaving that?
They make
Ooh.
buckets.
Bucket in water and throw it in a creek.
this is getting
How our
barbaric.
ancestors
Yeah.
used to live. I'll
That's
wipe
true.
with leaves too. I'll give up toilet paper for a week too.
Just dig a
And
hole.
they
yeah,
didn't have
dig a
running
hole in the
water
yard.
or internet, so I mean, true.
How boring.
A lot better people than us before us.
Yeah.
That's kind
Simple
of what I
people.
got out of this.
Yeah,
today.
we're weak.
Yeah, I'm probably going with the internet too. I'll just be dirty for a week. But like G-Man said, I think if it was much longer than that,
Yeah.
I might start finding ways to cheat like Travis, and I'll hit up some internet cafes, and I'll borrow some.
Well, I mean,
We wouldn't be able to do anything. We wouldn't be able to upload any kind
I'm
of
not
I
uplo-
think
I'm
all
not
of us have
uploading a highlight
internet
on
television,
McDonald's
right?
Wi-Fi.
Like YouTube
True.
TV
We
and
can
things
do
like
that.
that. We
Right.
can't watch TV. We
all
can't
dead.
get online play. Storm can't play his video games.
Go to
We can't
Starbucks.
post our highlights online. Things like
Get
that.
on
I mean,
Fortnite or something.
internet's
It'd be
really
the end
important
of
to us.
us as we
There
know
is
it.
no OH report without the internet, so clearly that is the answer.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. End of
Clear.
discussion. Well, over these last couple of weeks and even moving into the future, we love our high school kids around here, the athletes that we get to cover, and even some of the kids from the student section and stuff. Lots of graduations on the docket, and we're just blessed that we get to be a part of them. So we want to give some shout-outs we got to go to Mansfield Senior's graduation
Shout out.
on Saturday. Had a great time with the Tigers, and you see they were giving it to us, man. They like that we're in the house, that we're providing them with this cool coverage, and those are some sweet glasses. I got to go to Clear Fork's graduation yesterday.
Yeah, that was
as well.
fun. That was a good time.
Yeah, it's just fun to see the kids on their last day, right before they break away and they become real adults. This is the last true day where you're truly like considered a youngster, a kid. So I just wanted to send out some love to all of the graduates and the ones that we're going to get to see here in the future. Anybody got a fun graduation story to wrap up the show with?
Skip mine and ate a 24-ounce steak at Brown Derby Roadhouse. That was awesome.
Wow. It's pretty epic,
That's
actually.
hard to top. Gee.
I didn't do anything. I walked. Went out to eat.
A lot of kids gritty on stage. I mean, were there any gritties at
Yeah, any
Clear Fork?
cool-
No, and
Pretty
actually,
cool.
there was a young lady that I was talking to before, and she said that she was offered $20 to try to
Ooh.
gritty on her way across the stage, and
I
I was
would
just like,
100%.
I've seen multiple Tigers do it for free. I was like, you might want to go get that money, girl.
Yeah.
I don't think she did it. I don't think we saw any
No.
gritties, did we?
Yep.
We saw a near trip.
Yes, we did.
At least you didn't go
Well,
all the
it
way
was,
down.
it was so fast too. Like they're going one after one after one that you couldn't really
right.
get that distance to do the gritty because there was somebody right in front of you. That
I gotta go to Centerburg.
Yeah, we got some boys that are heading out to some games, so we're gonna let Storm get out of here. Travis as well heading out to a game. I didn't really have any crazy thing happen at graduation, but our VP here at OH.Report, Jory Hollenbeck, they said her name wrong during the graduation when they called her name, and still to this day, I will not say her middle name the correct way. Because of that, she will always be Jory Dana to me, and that's our show.
The end.